Welcome back to Insider TV alongside Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Time to talk football recruiting. And Rodney, really, it's almost Christmas and it's almost the end of recruiting time. Alabama really just pretty much going to put a bow on this class. Just a few spots open. But one young man that has an offer, whether he waits to the last day or beyond, is Isaiah Crowell, running back out of Columbus, Georgia. Now, this has long been thought to be an Alabama-Georgia battle, but Auburn, on the heels of their great season, also the head coach there at Columbus Carver is an Auburn graduate and football player. They're making a move now.
Well, again, I think it's going to be tough for Auburn to crack it, but they might. I think it's Alabama and Georgia, and Gary, I think Georgia's the leader right now.
All right, that's a guy that Alabama has targeted for a long time, but the in-state Bulldogs have as well. Another Peach State prospect, Xavier Ward, the big offensive tackle out of Moultrie, Georgia. For a long time, Rodney, you felt like Alabama was in really good shape. Has that changed? Well,
you know, when you look at what Alabama's recruiting, we're going to talk more about some of the other offensive tackles, but you have, you know, Cyrus Kwanjo, you have Aaron Morris, who's kind of emerged out of Jackson, Callaway, Mississippi, and obviously you have Aaron Douglas, the junior college player who we'll address later. And Xavier Ward, we had a story on him on TITVinsider.com today. Alabama's still his only official visit, but Auburn's in there, Tennessee, Georgia, Clemson, so all of those schools in the mix, and we'll see what happens. He's one of those guys, Gary, and most of them are coming out of high school, as you can see. Not a lot of weight on him. Needs to get bigger, but he has a lot of potential.
And now to Aaron Douglas, and one thing that makes him an even more intriguing prospect is the fact that he's already got SEC experience. And we saw with Cam Newton that having already had a little bit of the taste of this league can't hurt you, that's for sure.
Started at Tennessee as a freshman in 2009, transferred to Arizona Western after Lane Kiffin left and went to USC. Alabama, USC, and Arkansas have been his top three. He's already visited those three schools, and not sure what he's going to do in terms of which one he'll choose, because he can enroll in January, but he's going to take an official visit to Oregon this coming weekend. So the Ducks have kind of gotten in the mix a little bit, Gary. We'll see what happens, but you know, he could come in probably at Alabama and start at left tackle.
Rodney, with all the parity in college football, particularly in the SEC, all the great athletes, you're looking for difference makers, playmakers, guys that can take a bad play and turn it into a good play. Nick Brassel may have that type of ability. He's committed to Mississippi State, but you continue to say that Alabama keeps pressing and they're not out of it.
Well, you know, personally, I think Nick Brassel's the best player Alabama's recruiting. I think, you know, when you're talking about electric and the ability to make plays, I think he's better than Isaiah Crowell. Tremendous player out of a great program there at South Panola High School. Committed to Mississippi State. It's kind of been a soft commitment. I know Nick likes Alabama a lot. We'll see what happens. I know there's also in-state pressure, and also the fact that, he's 25 minutes from Oxford, so I think that Ole Miss, you never can count them out.
This next young man, this is an interesting story, because I watched Isaiah Lanier in high school a couple years ago when he came out. He signed with Auburn, went to East Mississippi Community College. Alabama didn't show that much interest at the time. But that's what's unique about football recruiting. You see this all the time. A kid signs with one school out of high school, then winds up going to a rival school out of junior college. That could happen with Isaiah. His coach there at East Mississippi, extremely high on him.
Cornelius Griffin. Remember, he signed with Auburn and ended up at Alabama. But you look at Isaiah Lanier, he'll be a corner or a safety on the next level. And if Alabama offers Isaiah Lanier, he's coming here. But Tennessee, Florida, LSU, all in the mix. Again, Auburn apparently has gotten a high school player that they prefer to take. But Isaiah will have 3 to play 3, meaning he has 3 full years. He only played 1 year of junior college ball. That was last year. This past season, he set out redshirted.
And from a great high school program there at Gordo. Okay, that's the recruiting update for this week. Now let's take some phone calls. CB will lead us off. CB, what's going on, my friend?
I'm going to tell y'all tonight, gentlemen.
Well,
we're going to kind of be young at quarterback next year. I reckon he might. Of course, you know, that running back the way it was done this year, I didn't pick it, but that don't matter. But I reckon he might play a 2-quarterback system.
It's a possibility, CB. Rodney, he's got, as CB alluded to, he meaning Coach Saban, Coach McElwain. They've got 2 really fine young quarterbacks, both of whom are inexperienced. McCarron has a little bit of an experience edge over Phillip Sims, but they're both going to get a strong look, and it's possible that both could play.
Yeah, and I don't think, personally, I bet there's not a starter named until fall, to be honest with you. Both those guys extremely talented. We saw A.J. earlier this year play quite a bit near the end of the year, actually. And you know, Phillip Sims is a tremendous prospect. He's made a lot of progress, as we've heard, did a tremendous job on the scout team. And, you know, the #1 high school quarterback in the country coming out in 2010. So, again, I think it's going to be an interesting battle. Will they play two quarterbacks, CB? I don't know, but I would not be surprised if that were to happen. Again, Nick Saban generally does not do that, but in this case, it could happen.
Jeff is in Birmingham, and he's also on TITV. Welcome in, Jeff.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned him a while ago. I just wanted to know if you still feel good about Cyrus Quanjo.
Yeah, Jeff, that's a really good question because probably about a month ago or so, there was some talk that Cyrus may be looking a little more seriously at other schools. And when you say that, you have to take into account that his brother Ari's a redshirt freshman here at Alabama, so a lot of people just thought he was locked up for Alabama. But I think Alabama's in really good position. I know he had a great visit. I talked to the coach at DeMatha High School, Coach McGregor, last week, and he said, obviously it makes sense that he would go to Alabama because of his brother and the tradition and all the history and, the football program under Nick Saban there now. So I think Alabama's in really good shape with Cyrus, but, other schools are certainly making a push, including USC.
Back to Tuscaloosa to talk with Joe. Joe, welcome into the program.
Oh, thank you. This is a two-part question.
Okay.
With all the hoopla a couple of months ago about Coach Saban getting a statue, what's the latest on that? Second part, we have another coach that's won, I think, 4 national championships, several SEC championships, has a high attendance rate, has a high graduation rate, and that's Coach Sarah Patterson. And what's been done for her to get a recognition?
Well, Joe, I'll take the first part first. I don't know when the Coach Saban statue is going to be up. I assume when it's ready. But it is coming, and as far as Coach Patterson is concerned, I think she gets a lot of recognition. I mean, she's done a terrific job, as you alluded to, 4 national titles. But I would say that if you did a poll of people around the country and asked for gymnastics coaches, she would be at the top of the list as far as having name recognition, as far as having been honored. She's in the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. I don't know, what else you would like to see done for her, but I think she's been recognized quite a bit.
Yep, she has. Going to be hard to replace.
Yeah, and deservedly so. But she's got a great program, and they start up here in just a few weeks. First week of January, Alabama gymnastics gets back into action. All right, we'll take a break. More phone calls right after this. We're back on TITV. Phone lines are open at 205-348-WVUA. Got a email from Trey in West Blockton. Is it now a Clowney to Carolina lock for the top prep player, arguably, in the class of 2011?
Trey, if I were betting, I'd probably bet on that. I think certainly Jadeveon Clowney will probably end up at South Carolina. But again, Alabama's still in the mix. They've recruited him hard. At one time, I thought Alabama, may have been the leader back in the summer after he took an unofficial visit here. But, again, it's hard to beat the home school, especially when they're 2 or 3 states away.
All right, let's go back to the phones and talk with LD in center. LD, you're on TITV.
Hey.
Hey, LD.
I was wondering how many players Alabama expected to lose this year to the draft.
Well, we've talked pretty often about this, and again, nothing officially has been announced on any of them, but the ones that are going to consider it, obviously, are Julio Jones, Mark Barron, Marcel Darius, Mark Ingram. I think Courtney Upshaw's probably going to take a look.
Marquise Mays may take a look.
And Dante Hightower's probably going to take a look.
Although, let me say, Marquise Mays needs to come back.
Yeah, but that's around a half dozen players. I would expect, LD, in complete honesty, that probably about 4 guys are going to, be early entries into the National Football League. And that's disappointing on one front because you hate to lose great players, but in some ways it helps because Alabama is always in a numbers crunch in terms of recruiting. And if some of these guys leave, it will open up spots for others.
Well, I think when we talked about that last week, Julio Jones, certainly I think Marcel Darius is gone, and you would think maybe probably Mark Ingram. I think that's fair to say. But, you kind of have to wait and see where the evaluations come back and see what happens.
That's the key. All right. Let's stay in Tuscaloosa and speak with Tony. Tony, welcome in.
Yes, I was wondering if we're going to take a running back for sure in this class, and is DeHart still available for January? And I noticed y'all had said earlier that he couldn't enroll in January, and I was wondering why. Thank you.
Well, he can enroll in January based on his eligibility. What Rodney had said, and I'll let him expand on it, was that because of the number situation, Alabama doesn't know if they can take him in January. Isn't that right?
Again, you have to have a spot open for them to come in January. They could probably take him. Obviously, could have a spot open for him to come in the fall. He's still available. He was, at last report, again, he could make his decision tomorrow. He's been committed to Michigan, and I think that's probably where he'll end up as long as Rich Rodriguez is the head coach.
All right, that's our phone call segment for this week. Stick around, more TITV. We'll wrap it up, in fact, right after this. And finally, several members of the Crimson Tide family heard the sweet sounds of pomp and circumstance this past weekend. 24 University of Alabama student-athletes received their diplomas on Saturday. 10 of them were football players, including Greg McElroy, and also athletes from gymnastics, baseball, soccer, swimming, diving, men's tennis, volleyball, rowing, also walked. And that, at the end of the day, is what it's all about. Playing sports is one thing. Getting an education, though, is the ultimate goal. That's right. It should be for anybody that's in college. All right, that's going to do it for this week's program. It's dinner time. We're heading over to the Pottery Grill tonight in Northport. Come out and join us. Don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can catch it on our website, WVUATV.com. So, for Rodney Orr, producer John Huddleston, our director Jonathan Newman, and the entire TITV cast, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week.